This season has been a roller coaster, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think that can be disputed. This has been a downhill roller coaster of a season, and once in a while, we get that little build of hype, and we think something's going to be good, just to plummet even further. Disappointment has been the name of the game this entire season. That has all changed with this one beautifully done 10 out of 10. Couldn't have thought of a better representation. This episode 18, Sins and Commandments alike, it's Griever, here as always, bringing you guys the review for that episode. It dropped today, and this episode needs to be talked about. Because, yes, episode 5 with the Daddy stuff, that was pretty good. Episode 13, where we thought they might have, contracted out some of the animation work to A1 Pictures. They brought the soundtrack back. It was a very fire episode. But this one, if that was fire, this is the sun. And in this episode, we praise the Son. We pray to him, we praise him, and just, oh wow. Like, with what they pulled with the previous episode, I wasn't sure what to expect. Because there are certain moments in these episodes that you think, okay, they're actually going to do this justice. They're not going to do it dirty, they're going to do this justice. This episode, I was very scared going into this, especially with episode 17, the way it was handled. I was very scared how they were going to butcher this, how they were going to pace this horribly, how they were going to shorten it, how they were going to do whatever, animation, terrible animation, whatever they were going to do. This episode, I can't find fault. Escanor. It's an Escanor only episode. They don't try to jump away to some other crap. They don't try to jump away to some other bullshit, which is one of the problems with the pacing of this season. Doing that carbon copy stuff from the manga. The pacing has been off for a while. But here they've corrected it by giving us 22 straight minutes of just pure Escanor. The fan favorite, the greatest character in the series, and it's absolutely incredible. We start off at the very beginning. The beginning of the episode starts off Escanor fired up. It's noontime, foolish Demon King. And it's just like, okay, here we go. Here we go. Love boogity boogity boo. Let's go racing, right? So, all right. It turns into a slugfest. Now, I remember a lot of people being disappointed when the manga came out and it turned into a slugfest. But it's sort of like Vin Diesel versus Dwayne Johnson. It's sort of like watching a Rocky movie or what have you, or like the Expendables movies. Like, that's sort of what we wanted to see. You might not think that's what you wanted to see, but magically, the Demon King is sort of a broken. It's sort of OP, sort of nerfed. So it's just like, nah. Let's just do this mano a mano, and let's just put up your dukes. Let's go. And honestly, this is probably the weakest part of the entire episode, and I didn't think it was that bad. Some of the shots, I was like, okay, here's what they're going to do. Like, they look okay, but they're just going to be moving stills for the most part. And there was also some actual animation, and not that bad. It was actually, some of the shots were pretty good, where the Demon King and Escanor are slugfesting each other, elbowing each other in the face, headbutt to break the Demon King's nose. And they're talking smack back and forth to each other. They're saying, oh, foolish Demon King, this is only pain. That's all you can inflict. Like, it's, what is pain? Nothing to me. And sort of idea, and the Demon King's like, I will give you, props, human. I never thought a single human ever, before or after, could have ever stood up to me in any way, shape, or form. And you have just, you've elevated your entire race in my eyes by being able to do this. But the problem, as Bond points out, the problem is time. And we see the flames slowly start to go out. And we know that the 1 minute, that noontime has passed. Gothra even acknowledges the Demon King is taking significant damage. Escanor is doing him damage. And it's not minuscule. It's not little. But that minute is up. Noontime has run out. And now it's 12:01. Escanor's flames go out. And then all of a sudden, everyone's worried about him. The Demon King slams into his weakened gut. And we know that from here on, Escanor is probably, this is the limit. And then we see the promise to his friend is going to bring up. And this is power of friendship done right, ladies and gentlemen. This is power of friendship done properly. He swears to keep his promise to his friend. And all of a sudden, trickle, trickle, and the flames ignite again. Escanor has surpassed his limits, and the one has come back. But it looks different, and everybody acknowledges it looks different. What is happening to Escanor's body? His hair is now turned a so brilliant color of the sun that it's white. It's flaring up and everything. The flames seem to be even bigger. His body seems to have increased even larger than before. And now Escanor has surpassed whatever limitation the one was for the single moment. And now we move to his backstory. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you one thing. This backstory, there are some problems with the backstory. From a storytelling perspective, there was a lot of hype surrounding the backstory, and there is a key problem with the backstory. The one key problem isn't necessarily within the backstory itself. The backstory is fine, and it makes a lot of sense. The one thing that I'm just going to, spoiler alert, guys, spoiler alert. So if you haven't read the manga, if you are still thinking like certain things about Escanor, I'm going to spoil one. I think it's a minor detail, but just in case. 3, 2, 1. We never find out why Escanor was able to take in Sunshine. During this backstory, we still don't find that out. There is never an explanation as to why Escanor has been able to withstand Sunshine for not just one use. Not just his body was special, like a One Piece Blackbeard thing. Oh, his body's a little different from everybody else. There was never anything like that. It has never been explained, and that's why Ludeshell could not believe it when he first found out that he has the grace of the sun. He has sunshine. How is that possible? A normal human would be broken apart, similar to taking on one of the commandments. Animals, people, whatever. Normal people would be torn apart. Even Mael of the 4 archangels himself, the strongest archangel, was only able to take in 4 before he started to sort of break apart and snap. Escanor has carried around the strongest of all the graces for years, and not just carried it around, but used it. Used it efficiently, time and time and time again in battle. And he has no necessarily control, as we find out in this backstory, but that has never been explained. What made Escanor special? Why was Escanor able to take that on? Now, I made multiple theory videos about this, guys. You can definitely go check those out on my channel. I made, I think, 1, 2, maybe even 3. I know I made at least 2 theory videos on Escanor. Where did Sunshine come from? Why is Escanor special? Etc., etc. None of that has ever been proven, and some of it has actually been debunked. But Nakaba has never given us a clear-cut answer as to why Sunshine waited 3,000 years to find Escanor after Mael was converted into Estarossa 3,000 years ago and Sunshine left him. We have no idea where the grace went and why it stayed away for so long, and why Escanor of all people. We never find the answers to those questions. That being said, I know that was a little long, guys. That being said, this backstory, even though it doesn't answer that question, this backstory is still a great backstory for Escanor as a character, though it does not answer that. Because what we get to see here, and actually there's a very funny shot, I'm hoping I'll be able to pull it up, where we see that Zarathos, I don't know if this was in the manga, I forget, but Zarathos and everybody is there at the trial of Escanor, where Escanor is deemed to have disrespected the king and terrorized the town and blah, blah, blah. And none of it's true, of course. I mean, some of it's true, but it's, out of context. And Escanor, in his weak and nighttime state, is just like, that wasn't me, but I mean, it was me, but I mean, sort of trying to explain bipolarism, sort of idea. And it's not really coming off very well. We have a really funny shot, though. We see Zarathos is like, even Zarathos was injured, and he's going, ow, 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 man. We see Dreyfus, we see Hendrickson, but we also see Twigo. We get to see Twigo, and I don't think that was in the manga. I'll be shocked if it was. I'm definitely going to have to check that out after I've done this review, but he's actually here Twigo was injured, attacked Escanor. That's hilarious, given the whole Lord Twigo Sama sort of meme that's been going around forever. That's actually hilarious. So there is that. When we get into the backstory, of course, Meliodas saves him from death row, as he saved quite a few other of the 7 deadly sins. And he's like, here's our 7th member. We finally found him. They sort of retcon a little bit into the whole, I wonder what happened, because there was a scene, I believe it was in season 2. It might have been season 3, not sure, where we see that Merlin and Meliodas met up with daytime Escanor after he helped somebody being attacked by a monster, and then was, oh my god, he's terrifying and stuff, and he was just like, huh? And he noticed Merlin and Meliodas. So they have met before. Apparently they must have parted ways. We don't really get that. So that's a bit of a weak link. I think that was just Nakaba originally didn't have this backstory all written out and in mind at the time. And I believe he confirmed that he sort of writes the backstories as they come up. So he made that scene back then with him meeting Meliodas and Merlin, and we're supposed to infer that that's when he joined the 7 deadly sins. But apparently not. They must have just separated. They must have parted ways at the time, and Escanor basically like blew them off and said, yeah, Merlin, you're pretty and whatever. You look like Rosa. But Meliodas, I'm not going to follow. I'm not going to join any knighthood. I'm doing my own thing. Peace. And he peaced out, right? And so that's totally fine. And I completely understand that. But here we sort of get the actual time that he fully joined in his nighttime form. And here's where he sort of gets introduced to all the sins, right? He gets introduced to everybody. Everybody's wondering, what can he do? What's his power? What's his thing? And he says poems, and everybody's like, what? Why is this guy here? Now, after a full night of drinking and partying with them, he decides to leave. Now, Merlin and Meliodas attempt to stop him, of course, but dawn is coming, and Escanor's trying to get out of there because he can't control Sunshine. He can't control his power. He just goes into sort of a blind rage as he tries to control it. He's not as... Once again, this is an Escanor from over 10 years ago when the 7 deadly sins were formed. The Escanor we see now is much older, and he's been able to control, especially with being able to be around the 7 deadly sins and stuff. He's in far more control. We don't really fully understand that at the time, and I wish they had spent a little more time sort of explaining that at some point, whether in the manga or the anime, that Escanor slowly got control of his temper, got control of his power. He trained with it, he was careful, and with Meliodas and Bond Meliodas was able to beat him, and Bond can't be actually killed at this point. He was able to sort of, instead of destroying mountains every day, just to sort of like unleash this power inside his body. It was an uncontrollable power at the time. At this point, he's a seasoned fighter, and he has full control over Sunshine. So clearly there was a lot of training between this Escanor in the backstory and the Escanor we have right now in the current story. That also being said, we do get the backstory of what sort of happened. It's sort of split up into a couple of scenes, but for the sake of just talking about it, we're just going to start. He was actually a prince. He was a prince of a kingdom. We did see this back in, I believe, season 2. We did see them like, oh, you broke your brother's arm, you're a monster, that's no son of mine and stuff. And so the king and queen sort of disowned him because Escanor at the time, clearly he was granted this power as a young kid because they never noticed before. He didn't exactly come out screaming and in the cradle, broke out the cradle and burned down the entire nursery or anything, right? So he gained Sunshine sometime about the age of anywhere between 4 and 7. You know, he was a small child at the time. So I'm going to guess he was more closer to 7, but he was around that age. And that's when Sunshine first manifested and he broke his brother's arm. And everybody was afraid of him. Now, Rosa ends up saving him. Now, this was a country that existed 20 years ago, and this kingdom was eventually destroyed by bandits. Now, we can infer from this that Rosa was actually, along with the rest of the kingdom, Rosa was killed at the time, or maybe she was killed for helping Escanor. We do not know. That's never been confirmed, but it would make a lot of sense because they were going to kill Escanor. As a small kid. It's sort of disastrous, but his own parents were gonna like put him on the chopping block, so to speak. But Rosa, who is apparently, I always inferred her to be his like nanny or his caretaker, you know, when he was growing up, sort of idea. She was the maid, the nurse, whatever, that took care of him ever since the wet nurse sort of idea since he was a small boy, and she loved him. unconditionally and knew that this was wrong. She had seen him at his worst and seen him at his best and knew that this was wrong. So she puts him in a barrel, tells him to not worry, is crying for him and stuff, puts him in a barrel and sends him across the sea, away from this kingdom, away from everybody. And he lives his life being afraid to get close to anybody because everybody's going to be hurt. Even when he tries to help them, they're terrified later of him. So one of those situations. Now, we also see this, that Escanor doesn't actually want to, even when he's in his prideful form. See, this is the difference. The prideful form that we've been used to Escanor is a seasoned, full in control of his pride. Yes, he's a boastful bastard, but at the same time, he has full control. Somebody can run up and hug him and he won't burn them or end up smacking them into a brick wall. He has full control of his anger, his pride, his power. This Escanor, at this stage in the game, when he first joins the Seven Deadly Sins, even says, as dawn is coming up and Merlin is questioning about this, Meliodas comes out and basically says, no, you're still going to join. It's all good. And he goes, don't you take one more step and I'll kill you. And he just goes, all right, well, I'm going to take a step. And then boom, slams him into Bond, both of them into the brick wall, and he believes he has killed them. Now, then he runs away quickly, disgusted with himself. His prideful self is not the character we sort of know. At this point, he's just filled with emotion and anger and power, and he doesn't know how to do it. So he completely, with his bare hands, destroys a mountain. Just beats it one punch at a time and levels a mountain. So I'm imagining there aren't going to be too many more mountains in the Hall of Britannia. And Merlin sort of brings this up later at nighttime after he's done letting it all out. Says, I'm pretty sure we don't need you to completely devastate an entire mountain every day because you can't control yourself. And they sort of go through this information. And we see that Escanor has been suffering quite a bit. Now, this is also where Escanor recognizes that Merlin reminds him a lot of Rosa. In the same way that they aren't afraid of him, they've seen him at his worst, they're still not afraid, and they still sort of want to be involved in some capacity, in some way, with him. And that's where sort of the admiration, the respect, and the affection that Escanor, the love that Escanor feels towards both Rosa and Merlin is also sort of, you could argue that this is sort of displacement a little bit. This is a bit of a displacement thing where Rosa's not around. He's sort of latched on to someone who reminds him heavily of Rosa, and he's attaching those feelings at the same way. You could argue that, but this is basically where the affection and falling in love with Merlin sort of began, because someone who accepted him. It's very easy when you've been hated and cruelty, someone shows you kindness and you take it to 110%. That one act of kindness feels like your entire world is centered around it, and so your emotions are dialed up to 11. There is that sort of, I've seen that theory, I've seen people talk about the relationship, the love that Escanor feels for Merlin in this way, but once again, I think over time it did become genuine. I think Escanor truly is in love with Merlin, so that's fine. He believes he's killed Bond and Meliodas, by the way, but they, of course, show up and go, we're not the only, you're not the only monster here. Everybody here is special. Everybody here is a monster. That's why we're banding together, because we're a bunch of freaks, right? And Escanor, of course, starts yelling about, you finally want me to say it. You don't know how I feel. Nobody can relate to me. I hate this power. I never wanted this power. He refers to it as a curse constantly. Even to this day, he always referred to sunshine. Even in his prideful form, he told Ludoshel that it was a curse. And that's why Ludoshel got very angry, because he had the grace. And he was like, you dare refer to it as a curse? So we see that. Now, this is where Meliodas finally, after Gother uses his ability to basically figure out, we all get the rest of the backstory that I already explained. Then Meliodas says, all right, here's the deal. Fight me at noontime. Just fight me at noontime. And if you win, if I win, you join the Seven Deadly Sins. If you win, do whatever you want. And he actually ends up agreeing to this. Now, even Merlin is shocked by the amount of power Escanor has. Now, once again, a lot of people, like me, were, at the time when we got this in the manga, we were somewhat disappointed by how easily Meliodas ended up defeating Escanor so quickly, even in the one form, considering how much he beat his ass in the one later on in the series. But at this junction, once again, Escanor is out of control. He's not seasoned. His power is flaming wildly. He doesn't have anything like, Divine Sword Escanor, Escanor Spear, or anything like that at the time. He's not harnessing. He's not honing. This is a wild power that's just going everywhere, that he has no sense of self, he has no sense of reason. Escanor at this point, I would argue, is far weaker. Even in the one, he is far weaker now than he is at this time, at the later time in the story. That only makes sense. Characters in manga progression, they get stronger, right? So, and this is Meliodas at his strongest. This is Meliodas not right after he achieved assault mode like a Gundam in the first time they fought. But this is Meliodas at full power, in full control, and he had to use his strongest. Meliodas had to go all out. He had to use his strongest form at the time, all his power, to stop one Escanor. Sure, it looked one-sided at the time, but this is Meliodas at full strength as well. So I was never disappointed by that. And also remember, Escanor wants to die. He wants someone to kill him. He's constantly been asking for it this entire backstory. And he feels he can't even bring himself to talk to Rosa. Merlin offers, and he goes, no, I'm too ashamed. She'd be disappointed in what she saw. So he is so conflicted at this point that his focus is also elsewhere. So there's a lot of reasoning as to why Escanor didn't put up much of a challenge, even in his one form here. If you guys, like me, feel like, okay, maybe this shouldn't have been so one-sided, I can see the reasoning as to why it was. And Meliodas actually does say to him, he looks down on him and says, if you truly want to die, I will kill you. He tells him that. He's got his foot jammed, I mean that's my fist, but he's got his foot jammed right on his throat after taking him down in the one form, and basically says, if you truly want to die, I can end your life. Is that truly what you want, sort of idea? And this is where Escanor finally allows. It reminds me of the Pixar movie Inside Out, which is a great representation of people always think you need to be happy. Ideally, at the beginning of that film, we tend to think like, okay, yeah, like why would we want any memory to have sadness? Why would we want sadness around, or fear or anxiety? Why wouldn't we want all our memories to be yellow, to be gold, to be joy, to be filled with that? And because we need to be able to feel these emotions. Sadness is necessary to become a complete person. There is going to be moments that are going to be bittersweet. There's going to be moments that need a combination of things. And in this way, Escanor is finally not being one-dimensional with his emotions anymore. He's let anger take over his control panel and constantly use that because he didn't want to face the other negative feelings that he needs to face so he can move forward. He finally breaks down, he feels the pain, he feels the sadness, he cries and says, I want to live. And that's when he goes to see Rosa in the necropolis. Now, at this junction, I forget if Escanor is ever aware that that's where he was, that Rosa is actually dead. At the time, he doesn't acknowledge it seemingly at the time, where Merlin allows to send him there, sort of giving him that half-death. The same thing that Gila did, putting herself in a state of half alive, half dead, so they could visit the necropolis. That's where Merlin ended up sending Escanor. And they have this moment, they have this time where Rosa once again says, I never regretted anything, like, because that's been hurting Escanor this entire time. It's like, I'm sure she's disappointed. I'm sure she regrets saving me. She probably had a difficult time of it, and all these things that Escanor feels because he loved Rosa. Maybe not necessarily romantically, but of course, Rosa was the only person to ever actually care about him. So he, of course, feels indebted, but he also feels ashamed that he hasn't been living his, I guess, best life. She saved me, and she suffered in some ways from that, and maybe he does know she died. I'm not sure. It's not really inferred one way or the other. But he hasn't been living up to like why did she save me? Like I'm a waste. I cause misery. I don't do. He's being very negative, glass half empty about his existence, and just feels and keeps spreading himself wall and walls of despair, just closing in around him. He finally lets himself feel after Escanor does offer to finally kill him and says, no, you know what, I want to live. And then tells Rosa as they go through the necropolis, and as she says, I never regretted anything. You know, Lord Escanor, you have always been like you're special, you're important and stuff, and never feel that way again, sort of idea. They have a very nice moment, and the soundtrack here, the OST, is beautifully done, and I think we get to actually see a little more here in this anime. In this backstory, I feel like they actually extended some stuff, which is something I have been saying this entire season. There are things that manga pacing doesn't translate well to anime pacing. You need to extend things. You need to let things like sort of go little slower than somebody would read a manga panel, because things like this scene, I swear, is a little bit longer, a little more extended here with the rose in the necropolis. And this is just the OST. It starts to make you feel a little choked up. It makes you feel the emotion, because now we're realizing that Escanor might finally be able to come full circle about who he is and about what he wants to do. And that's when we jump back to the present day. We get the promise. Now we can infer from this, like, it's not exactly fully stated, or I think it was, yeah. By the time we get back to the present day, it is, he basically says that his life, he's going to use it now for the sake of his friends that he now has within the 7 deadly sins, that he will use it to protect his friend Meliodas, Meliodas is Escanor's only, I guess, friend. Like, the 7 deadly sins are comrades, etc., but Meliodas is his one true friend as far as he's concerned, because he's the one who actually defeated him when nobody else could and made him finally face what he was feeling. So, and allowed him to see Rose again and all this stuff. So he's always been indebted, and now he feels like, okay, I'm not going to waste this life, but I am going to use it for the sake of my friend. I promise to never, ever, if there's ever a time that my life can be exchanged for his life, if I can do something with this power, with this, this is where he starts to be able to control his power, because he goes, if I have control, I will be able to always be able to save my friend, help my friend, regardless. And this is where we come full circle, we come back to the present day, and this is where we see the insanely, like I gotta just pull this up again. I'm looking at these pictures, and man, oh man, I didn't expect him to look this good, but once again, this is what great animation, this is what even good animation, like, this isn't fantastic, but this whole episode has had not really any bad shots. They've all been well done. The stills look great. The animation looks good. The fire looks great. Like, this is, like, the interpretation, the Zeldris versus Escanor fight with the Battle of Six looked crazy bad compared to this, and now we're getting Escanor in his, I don't know if they actually title it here, but they refer to this as the Ultimate One. In the manga, I don't know what they'll call it here, but they call it the Ultimate One. So this is where he's burning through, and we get the explanation that he's now transferring his life force, his remaining lifespan, and everything he's got left. Because once again, realistically, his life is already forfeit, because he took on Sunshine one more time and used it. Mile even told him not to do that. He knew he couldn't do it, but he did it anyways. So realistically, burning up what he's got left is only, so he's using this to extend the power of the One beyond noontime. But not only that, it seems to have increased. Like, this is why they refer to it as the Ultimate One. He's gone beyond what the normal noontime one can do, and now he's at his most powerful Escanor would ever be. And it's just, it looks so good. It actually looks so damn good. And I'm severely shocked, but I'm also extremely happy, because there are now, next episode, I hope they give, because the quality in this episode, I have a feeling this is going to be like episode 13. We're going to go episode 13, it's going to be great, and then we're going to go episode 14, and it's not going to be so great anymore. So, no expectations, ladies and gentlemen. No expectations for what the next episode is. But if I could have 2 episodes, assuming that the end of the fight is not next episode, right? There are only 2 moments left. 2 moments left. It's the fight that's going on right now with the Demon King, with Escanor and the Ultimate One. And there is one more scene after the battle. I need both of these scenes to be the quality level that we are seeing here in episode 18. I need both of them to be of this standard. I need that. There are only 2 moments left in the rest of the season, guys. Spoiler ahead. But there's only 2. There's only 2 good moments for the rest of this. And I need them both to be of this quality. Because this just goes to show me that they know that Escanor is important. They know this was the vital episode for the entire season. And they put in the work. They put in the time. They put in the money. Let's see you do it one more time. Praise the sun one more time for me, ladies and gentlemen, because this episode is 10 out of 10. I've got no complaints. This is going to be like an hour-long review because I just can't stop talking Escanor. There's going to be more to talk about with Escanor as the battle continues, but for right now, I can't get over that from sort of like the phoenix out of the pile of ashes sort of feeling, which is appropriate given the whole flame thing and the sun and the power and sunshine, because it feels like, yeah, you're going to animate it, but it's not going to be very good. And then we got this. We got this, guys. It's good. It's actually good. Why the rest of the season couldn't be this good, I have no idea, but at least they put the money into this one. If nothing else, they put the money into episode 13, they put the money into episode 18, and assuming there's 2 more good moments, but for the rest of the season. But if I had to pick one, it would be the latter of those moments, and that better be, if you're only going to give me 3 great episodes, give me that last moment. Give me that, please, for the love of God. But yeah, so that's the review, guys. This is going to, as I said, this is going to be an hour-long review. Even if I edit this thing down all to hell, I feel like I've been talking for over an hour. Or I can't stop ranting about Escanor. He's the best character. I know a lot of people love Bond, and I love Bond too, but Escanor is my favorite. He's a lot of people's favorite. He's such a good character. He is OP done right. Very, very, it's very difficult to do a broken character correctly. It's so hard to do an OP or broken character correctly. I would argue that in Jujutsu Kaisen with Gojo, not done perfectly. Done well, but not great. Not perfect. There are some flaws with the way that Gojo was handled as far as power scaling and stuff within Jujutsu Kaisen. Saitama in One Punch Man. Overpowered. Some people would argue that's also done right. I would argue it's not, because there are a few things. It's not done poorly, but it's not done perfectly. There's not enough limitations there. There's too many, just because. The reason, if you can't give a reason as to why X, Y, Z, and your reason is because, then it can't be perfect. Then it's not done perfectly. Escanor to me is the perfectly done, overpowered character. Because he has limitations, because he has a great character, because he has a great story, and we're seeing that finally come full circle. And okay guys, this is not an Escanor discussion video, though now I'm really tempted to now do all 7 Deadly Sins discussions again. I did those years ago on my old channel, but now I feel like doing them again because I got so much more to say on Escanor. I could keep repeating myself about Escanor. There's just so much. I need an Escanor poster. I need a Hawk poster from Yona there. I need an Escanor poster over there. I need something else over there. Something cool. Darth Vader. Something awesome. I don't know. Either way, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the review, because if I don't stop it right here, this literally will go over an hour. So like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate all you. Definitely check out this episode. I'm hoping to get this out the same day, Wednesday, when it was released, because the hype is real, and I don't want to lose a moment of the hype. And also, plug, shameless plugging for the whole channel. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to drink responsibly, as always, even though it is middle of the week, it's lockdown, so what have you. So thanks, guys, so much. Drink responsibly, as always. We'll see you back here next time. Praise the sun.